Welcome to the Candle Business Coach Podcast, a show about the craft of candle making and small business. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I'm a candle maker, mum of three, and kindness advocator. Join me as I dive into all things candles and small business and deliver advice and tips to you in episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Are you on the list to get my daily motivation emails? Every day I'll send you a message that is designed to help keep you focused on taking action toward your goals. Sign up using the link in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by my free ebook, The Candle Business Marketing Kickstarter Kit. Inside this free ebook, you'll learn to identify your blocks of time to dedicate to your candle business. Plus, there are several tips and tricks for re-engaging past customers and attracting new customers into your business so you can grow your business and reach your goals. Check out the link in the show notes for your copy. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. We have a very special guest joining us on our episode today. I've got the beautiful Jennifer Rudd, who is an expert when it comes to all things compliance in regards to skincare. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a candle makers podcast, so what are we going to do talking about skincare? But there are many people that listen to this podcast and many candle business owners that actually branch out into the skincare realm. And there's many people that have skincare products that then start making candles. So I thought it would be really great to bring Jen on today to talk about how compliance fits in with all the things to do with candles and skincare. So Jen, would you like to say hello to listeners?
Hello, and first of all, thanks so much, Kirsty, for having me along. It's really great to be on your podcast. So I'm Jen, the founder of Skincare Business Foundations, and I guess I started out with my skincare business back in 2015 as a bit of a side hustle from my corporate job. So I'm sure a few of you out there listening can probably relate to that. I was working in compliance, risk management, and audit type roles in the energy and financial services industries, and thought, wanted to do something a little bit different. So I started out my own skincare brand, Wildleaf Botanicals, which I had for a few years. But then I realized that there was quite a few people wanting to start side hustles, and particularly skincare businesses, but they didn't really have that business background or particularly the compliance knowledge in what they needed to do. So being the compliance nerd I decided to start Skincare Business Foundations and help those people to better understand their compliance obligations, as well as the steps in starting a skincare business. So I did business and psychology at uni, but they don't really teach you a lot about how to start an actual business in uni. So I thought it was really important to put something out there to help other people who are wanting to start their own little passion projects.
I love that. It's such a nice way of bridging the gap between what you know from a compliance point of view, but then also from a business point of view and the skincare as well. It's sort of being that step ahead of the people that are just starting their business and helping to guide them through so that they're doing everything that is right legally and it is compliant as well.
That's right. And there's so many things to think about that when you've got someone who can kind of guide you along the way and help you save time and all those costly mistakes, it can really be helpful.
Perfect. So for the listeners that might not know, can you explain to us what compliance actually is?
Sure. So compliance is the process basically of making sure that you and your business are meeting any laws, regulations, or legislation that apply to the business. And they can be laws and regulations that might be applicable to all business, so things like your tax obligations. And then there's also industry-specific obligations. So an example of that would be the mandatory labelling standard that applies to all cosmetics.
So it goes without saying, but compliance and being compliant is pretty important, isn't it?
Yes, and I know I'm totally aware that it's not the sexiest part of running a business, but it's definitely important. And I'm not just saying that as a self-confessed compliance nerd. A lot of people think that these laws and regulations exist to make our lives more difficult, or that it's all just red tape, but they actually do serve a purpose. And particularly in this industry, it's generally there to help protect consumers. And we're all consumers ourselves. So whenever we're buying a product off the shelf, I'm sure that we want to know that it's not going to cause us an injury or an illness, and that we're getting what we pay for. So it's really an essential part of doing business properly and having a professional business that customers and big retailers as well are going to trust. And no matter what size of business you are, even if you're just starting out, it's really important to get things right from the beginning.
That's right, rather than backtracking
Yes,
later
that's
and
right.
realizing that you haven't done the right thing,
Yeah.
unintentionally, of course, but it's
Yes.
important to get right from the very start.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what qualifies a product to be deemed skincare? Because I know that there are some candle makers that definitely like delve into like bath bombs and lip balms. Do they count as skincare products?
Yeah, so skincare products obviously used for the skin, but all those types of products, so soaps, bath and body products, they all fall under the banner of cosmetics. And other examples of that are things like hair care, makeup, tanning products. So all of those products that you're really putting on the skin or putting on the hair, all of those are classified as cosmetics, and they generally have all of the same regulations as well that you need to comply with. I usually just refer to the term skincare to make it easier, but you can interchange that with any other cosmetics term as well.
Is there much difference between skincare and candles when it comes to compliance and the legalities of running a business?
Now, I have to admit, I'm not an expert in candle regulations, but from what I've seen, there is a difference in terms of the obligations that apply. You will have your general business obligations that are pretty similar, such as your business registrations and tax. The good news is that for skincare, like candles, you don't need a specific registration or anything like that to be able to make or sell candles. But cosmetics are more regulated in terms of things like labels, ingredients that you can use, as well as the claims that you want to make about those cosmetics products.
That makes sense. So, for the candle makers that are listening and have considered or are considering branching out to having a skincare range, why do you think someone would do that?
Great question. Well, I think for me, those products go together so well. So skincare or other cosmetics you've mentioned, like soap, bath and body products, they just go together so well. And a few clients and students that I've had sell both of them as well. They're both products that smell really beautiful, and they're both used in self-care. So for example, when you go to a skin clinic or a day spa, you'll often have a lovely smelling candle in the background, won't you, at reception or in the treatment room. And I think they're also really complementary products when it comes to things like gift sets. So you can make some really gorgeous gift hampers, which are obviously great for increasing your average order values, and particularly at certain times of the year, like Mother's Day and Christmas, where they make great presents.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wouldn't try launching both at the same time, but if you've already got your candle business established, you're wanting to expand your range, increase your revenue and profits, you've got an interest or passion for skincare or another type of cosmetic, then it's definitely worth considering. And the good thing is that these days you don't need to be, an expert cosmetic chemist or anything like that to start your own brand. Obviously, it's good to know a little bit about the skin science, but there are a lot of brilliant cosmetic chemists and formulators out there who you can outsource that to. And there's also contract manufacturers that you can outsource your manufacturing to, or you can even purchase private label products that are already made, and then you just buy them and stick your own branding on them if you're wanting to add those into your range. So you don't have to make all of your own skincare because you're probably busy making candles.
Yeah, exactly. And as the listeners will know, when you're working part-time or full-time, running the household, taking care of the family, the idea of bringing on a whole new business could be quite overwhelming or quite confronting. But if you have a passion for it and you're wanting to explore that side of business or that the skincare ranges, you can learn and outsource some parts of it as well and work out how best to run the business. And there's different ways of doing it, like you said.
Exactly, that's right. I'm all about working smarter, not harder.
That's right. So am I.
Yeah.
What are some things to be careful of when it comes to compliance and labels?
When it comes to compliance, one of the main issues that I see, particularly in social media and on labels, is around claims that are made, and particularly making therapeutic claims. We have to remember that we're making cosmetics, and the difference between a cosmetic and a therapeutic good is basically that with a cosmetic, they're products that are, you're putting on the surface of your skin, they're having a relatively superficial or surface level effect, things like maintaining it in good condition, protecting it, hydrating, and things like that. Whereas when it comes to a therapeutic good, it's making claims around things like, healing a certain injury or illness or a skin condition like eczema, or affecting a physiological process in the body. So things like hair growth. So those are the kind of things, that's one of the main things that you need to be aware of when it comes to compliance generally, is making those claims. And then when it comes to labels, yes, that's another important one as well. There are more than 6 different rules and regulations that you need to consider when you're creating a compliant label. probably a little bit more than when it comes to doing a candle label. So it is tricky to get them fully compliant. And a bit of a truth bomb for you is that 99% of labels that I review in my label reviews are non-compliant. And that's because there are so many little things to consider. It could be something as simple as missing a bit of mandatory information, or even including it, but not having it in the right format, position, or size. So lots of things to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And I know when it comes to candle labels, there are different, I guess, rules depending on where you are in Australia as well, and if you're selling overseas. So it's important to do your own research and make sure that you're getting the most up-to-date information before creating your labels or when you're updating them, to make sure you've got the right information on them.
That's right. And that can be one of the most challenging parts about staying compliant is, first of all, finding all of that information. You'll probably end up finding yourself going down Google rabbit holes, when you're researching those regulations. And then once you've found the regulations that you need to comply with, because they're not all in the one place, then you need to actually try and understand them, because they're not always written in the most easy to understand language. And then you need to work out, well, how does that apply to my business? And because there's no central place, it is time consuming, it's difficult, can be a little bit stressful if you're worried about not being compliant. And then once you are compliant, then as you've said, you need to stay up to date with the regulations as well, which can be a challenge unless you're subscribed to all the regulator news, or you're paying membership for an industry association to get those updates. So that's why I created my compliance confidence course that I've got, so that all of that information around your cosmetics regulations are in the one place. Because as a business owner, you've got so many other things to worry about. And I know that compliance is not at the top of everyone's kind of joy list. So that's why I'm kind of here to do all that hard work for you, while you can focus on the fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And considering, as you say, that there are so many ways of finding that information and trying to understand it, having someone such as yourself that can pull it all together so that you can save time and energy as a business owner, rather than trying to Google everything yourself. Because as we know, Google and the internet, all the information that we could ever need or want is there. It's available for us. But how much time do you have to invest into finding that information and making sure it's the right information from a reputable source, and making sure that what you're consuming is the right information?
That's right. And I'm really all about breaking the regulations down into easy to understand language. That's one of my brand values, is complex made simple. Because when you're looking in the legislation, it's a bit of gobbledygook sometimes, and a lot of on a lot of other websites, they just repeat that information out of the legislation. But I'm really all about helping you to apply it to your business easily and actually understand what it means for your business.
So what happens if you're not compliant? What are the consequences, I suppose, if you're found out that you haven't been compliant, again, unintentionally, but what would happen to the common business owner?
Yeah, great question, Kirsty. It really does depend on the regulator, from what I've found. Now, I'm not into fear mongering, so I'm not going to say you're going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines or go to jail. What are the potential likely scenarios is that you could get a warning notice. So, for example, the TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration, they've made it really easy for people, usually competitors, to report non-compliant claims. So, for example, if you're making a cosmetic product but you're making therapeutic claims, you can go onto the TGA website, or someone could go onto the TGA website and report that you're doing that. From what I've seen in the most cases, TGA would send a warning notice, and then they would only really issue a fine if it was kind of repeated or sustained non-compliance. What is more likely to happen from a cost or financial impact perspective is that you might need to do a label reprint. So if you're getting a warning notice, then you're going to need to have your labels reviewed, reprint them, which is obviously not great. Potentially product recalls in an extreme scenario, if for example, an ingredients listing is wrong. That's actually something that happened twice in the past few years to Jurleek. So even big brands can get it wrong, right? Jurleek had to actually issue product recalls for several products that had the incorrect ingredients listing. Other things can happen, like reputation damage, advertising banned on TikTok. They did go through a bit of a period when the TGA released a new advertising code or updated advertising code early this year, and they really knuckled down on any potential non-compliant advertising for around cosmetics where they were making therapeutic claims. So that can have an impact as well. But the other really interesting impact is that big retailers aren't going to want to stock you if you're not compliant. And I know for a fact that at least some of them do big comprehensive compliance reviews before they stock any products, particularly around the claims. So you really want to make sure that you're compliant in those areas. Now you're probably thinking that's all good, but I've seen so many brands that are non-compliant out there making all sorts of claims. I guess I would say that because there are a lot of brands out there, it is hard for the regulators to stay on top of things, which is why it often comes down to a competitor reporting someone that's not doing the right thing. But my advice is always to kind of, make sure your own business is doing the right thing. Don't worry about what other businesses are doing. And if you're doing the right thing, that's great, because there are benefits of complying. You're going to avoid wasting your money and effort for having to fix any mistakes. You're going to be able to really confidently market your product. So you're not going to be worried about putting a post on social media and wondering if it's compliant or not, or doing some advertising, because you'll know that you're doing the right thing. You're going to be able to start scaling up. And also, importantly, it's about doing the right thing by your customers and feeling good about your brand.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a, I love how you just take the fear and the unknown away from, the big umbrella that is compliance, and making sure that we're doing the right thing, because we all want to do the right thing. But if we don't necessarily know the path to take, it can be a little bit confusing or overwhelming. So, yeah, it's great that you're able to break that down for us.
Yeah, so no, I love doing it and helping people better understand their obligations.
Yeah.
When you start your candle business, there are so many things to consider and research along the way, especially when it comes to choosing the right suppliers. Long Story Short provides all your design and printing needs, from your logo and branding to designing and printing your product labels. The quality is exceptional, the customer service is amazing, and prices are very reasonable. They are the only label company I recommend, so check out their website or send them an email today to get started. hello@longstoryshortdesign.com.au.
Is there a lot of fear about being compliant or not being compliant?
Yeah, from what I've noticed, it does depend on the person. So interestingly, I think there are a few people out there that think it's a bunch of pointless red tape, and they'll just do whatever they want, a bit cowboy-like behavior. I'm going to admit they're not my people. But then you get people on the other end of the spectrum that are terrified they're going to get into trouble from the regulators, and it really holds them back from getting their brand out there. It keeps them, paying. The fear keeps them playing small, because they're worried that they're worried about getting too big in case it means they're going to get into trouble from the regulators, which is not great either. So I'm here to help those people feel more confident when it comes to knowing what the regulations are and how to comply.
Love it. How does mindset come into play when running a small business, whether it be a candle business or skincare?
Yeah, mindset is a huge part of business, and I really don't think I realized that probably until last year. And I've been, been in business since 2015 now. I did psychology at uni, but it's not really a term that we used a lot. And at first, when I started hearing the word mindset, I thought it was all a bit woo-woo, but I've realized now it's totally not, and it's really an essential part of having a really successful business. I think as a business owner, you really need to be aware of your mindset, even things like your fears and how they show up day to day in your business. For example, procrastination. It might not be that you're lazy, but maybe your fear of failure, or even more commonly, a fear of success, is actually holding you back. So once you realize those things, you can work on strategies around it. And the other thing I think is that you need to be so determined, because you're going to get lots of setbacks, some little ones, some big ones when it comes to business. They can dent your confidence if you're not careful, but you need to remember that everything is a learning opportunity. So I try not to look at things as mistakes, but learning opportunities instead. And it's really important to have that positive mindset. And don't get me started on money mindset, because I could go for hours and hours talking about that and how important that is to business as well.
So talk to us about money mindset.
Yes. You're going to get me started. No, I think I won't talk too much about it. There are some really great resources and books. So I've started probably about a year ago doing, reading some of these books and working on my money mindset, and it made a huge difference. So last year I was actually able to quit my corporate job and go full-time in Skincare Business Foundations, when I thought that was probably going to be another 1 to 2 years off. But really, got my money mindset on track and my overall mindset, and just made that decision. And it's been the best decision because now I've got, more time to spend on my business and grow it. So some of the resources would be like Denise Duffield Thomas. She's a really great money mindset mentor. Amanda Francis has some great books as well. Rich AF is one of hers, which I really recommend everyone reading. And there's heaps of books out there.
Love it. I love it when we get book recommendations or podcast recommendations, because it's so interesting and fascinating to follow the path of the guests that we have on the show, because if they're recommending it, then it's had a big impact on them. So thank you for sharing those resources. I'll be sure to leave them in the show notes as well, so people can find the books and give them a read, which will help them on their journey as well.
It's a perfect time of year to kind of get in and work on a new money mindset.
Yeah, exactly. The start of any year is always nice to have those resolutions or set those new goals. I actually just the other day sat down and wrote out my 12-month and 5-year goals. And there's so much hope and excitement and anticipation around goal setting and having those dreams and wishes written down, and so that you can make them more tangible and make them into reality and work towards them.
Definitely. It makes such a big difference, writing things actually down and setting the intention and then taking that inspired action to make things happen.
Yeah. So for the candle maker or skincare business owner wanting to take their first steps into being compliant, what would you recommend they do?
Well, if you head on over to my website, I've got some great resources on there. I've got a blog that has some great articles, in particularly one where you can download a Australian Regulations Unpacked guide, and you can have a look on there. And I've got guides on importing cosmetics if that's something that you're looking to do as well. And I've also got a skincare business starter guide on there, which is a really great starting point for anyone that is wanting to add a skincare range to their existing candle business.
Perfect. And I'll put all the links in the show notes so people can click through and find that information, because I know that there'll be at least a few of the listeners that'll be interested in learning a little bit more about expanding their business into more products than just candles and wax melts.
Yep. Excellent. And I'm also, out of all the social medias, I'm probably most active on Instagram. So you can find me over there at Skincare Business Foundations. And you can also feel free to send me a DM as well. I'd love to hear if you've listened to the podcast and what you've learned from it.
Yeah. And what's your website?
skincarebusinessfoundations.com.au.
And just a little side note, I saw on your Instagram that you recommend, if anyone has a website, to get a .au as opposed to a .com.au or a .com. Can you talk to us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so that was actually something that came out last year. So I always recommend to get all of them if you can. But certainly if you haven't already got your .au, then get it, because that was something they just brought out last year. You needed to go on and register. If you already had the .com.au, it's really easy to get your .au. But what it means is that if you don't get that .au, then it leaves it open for someone else to get that domain. And we really want to be getting as many domains as possible, at least the .com, .com.au and .aus, because then it just prevents anyone else from using those domains, which could get really confusing for customers when they're trying to find you, for example, just doing a Google search or something like that.
Yes, definitely. And I have to admit, I purchased mine yesterday based off your Instagram post. I was like, yes, I do need to do that. So thank you for that.
No, that's okay. I haven't actually seen many businesses using it yet. I know a lot of people have just bought it and, just put it to the side for now. So it'll be interesting to see, I think over the next couple of years, whether brands do start using that as their primary domain or if they stick to the .com.au. It's interesting move to bring it out. I'm not sure if it was just a revenue raising thing to get some more money from extra domain names, or if it's really going to make a difference to the online world, but only time will tell.
Yes. And for anyone that's curious, to get the .au, depending on whether you go with like GoDaddy or Crazy Domains or something like that, you're only looking at about $10 or $20. It's not a huge investment.
Super cheap, and it's just a good, just get in and get it done, and then you just know that no one else is going to be able to use that domain with your business name in it.
That's right. So we've come to one of my favorite parts of the recording, where I ask all my podcast guests 3 questions. So in addition to all the other questions I ask as well. So the question number 1 is, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
Great question. So personally, I love candles that are fragranced with essential oils because I love essential oils. My favorite ones, I'm actually burning one in the background at the moment. It's geranium. That's one of my favorite essential oils, geranium or rose
Beautiful.
geranium. And the other thing I like is lemon-scented eucalyptus or even lemon-scented tea tree. I think, yeah, it's just got such a beautiful smell that's so typically Australian and really refreshing.
Yeah, I love that scent too, actually. And I've got one of those candles in the cupboard. So yeah, that's a good reminder for me to burn that later today.
Yes.
Question number 2, what do you love about candles?
Well, I think obviously apart from smelling amazing, that the flickering flame, it's a bit of a tongue twister, really helps create an instant relaxed atmosphere to any room. It also looks great in the background of videos if you're recording any videos.
Yes. And then question number 3, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to candle makers during their journey?
That would be, don't be afraid to invest in your business. I know, and it comes back again to money mindset. I know that can be a little bit scary putting money out, but working with the right people and coaches, doing the right courses, going on that business retreat with other business owners, that's all where the magic and growth happens. My money mindset is money out, money in, which has been validated in these books that I've been reading lately. And time again, it's proven me to be true. So I'll make an investment in my business and then I'll get more than that back in my return on investment. So it's really worth doing that money mindset, reading those books and resources and following those experts and making sure that you do invest in your business.
Yeah, I love that. And not only that, it's about investing in yourself because your business is an extension of you. It's not your identity, but it's part of who you are in terms of goals that you want to achieve in life. So if you're growing professionally, you're growing personally as well. So by reading the books, listening to the podcasts, doing that personal growth, it benefits you both, professionally and personally.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with that one, Kirsty. That's an amazing point. And I think for me, that's one of the things I love about being a business owner is that you do get that personal development as well that you don't kind of get when you're in a corporate job and just working for someone else. It really kind of highlights your, the areas that you can improve. Sometimes it really, highlights your vulnerabilities, but that's how you get stronger and grow. And it's, as I said, it's one of my favorite parts of having a business. I'm a massive course addict. So I've bought so many courses last year. So this year, one of my resolutions is not to buy any more courses and actually do all the courses that I bought last year.
Yes, I love that. I'm a huge advocate of doing courses as well because other people that are a little bit or a lot ahead of you on the journey, you can learn so much from. And then the information that you consume and learn, you can then pass on to people that are behind you in their journey. So it becomes this beautiful ripple effect where people are learning and discovering and becoming the next level versions of themselves if they're willing and brave enough to put in the work to do that personal growth, because it can be scary. It's not, I know we're talking about it like it's light, but it can be quite confronting when you're discovering more about your personality, what makes you tick, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and really delving into who you are as a person and how you can best contribute to the world. So I love courses. I love reading and listening to podcasts and just absorbing the teachings from people that are, as I said before, just a little bit ahead in their journey.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to that growth mindset, isn't it? And which is something that you really need. We're talking about mindset earlier, but that's another key component of mindset that's really important when we are in business, that growth mindset.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Jen. I've had the absolute best time chatting with you and learning about compliance. And I know the listeners might see the title of this episode and go, oh, that doesn't apply to me, or oh, I don't want to listen to that, which is not the right attitude. So come on, guys. We want to expand our knowledge and learnings. And I just know that there are so many valuable tips that you've given us today. So thank you so much for being part of the podcast and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Kirsty. It's been amazing.
And as I said before, I'll leave all of your links in the show notes, both for Instagram, your website as well. And you've got a couple of resources that people can connect in with, and they can find them on your website as well.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
Thanks everyone for listening today. I hope this episode added value to your candle making journey. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout today's show, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for listening. Have a beautiful day.